Good. Just anybody can talk to me so I can hear you too.
Hi sir, how are
Okay,
you doing?
Hi,
good,
sir.
good. I am good. Thank you. Okay, so thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. And yeah, it was so long gap, isn't it? So, do you remember in the last lecture in the advanced QS practice, we have discussed about the types of tendering. So, how many types of tendering we discussed? Anyone remember? Okay, if everybody can hear me, say audible. So, some people are not hearing me. They can in the chat option say audible. So, the people cannot hear, they can rejoin. Okay, so how many types of tendering we have? Have you all went through with the notes? Okay, so I will go back to the syllabus what we have learned. Then we will discuss. So there are uh, five types of tendering we have, which is open tender. Open tender mean open to anyone, even the contractor or even the general public can apply. Whereas we have the problem with the quality, inexperienced people also can come. At the same time, the advantage, the experienced new contractor also can get the project. But however, they are threatened. The lowest tenderer may be a not qualified tender. Therefore, the single stage selective tender come to the practice where only the qualified bidders can apply for the project. But the problem there, the client cannot get the very lowest price similar to the open tender. However, he will get a reasonable price, but there are certainty all the bidders are qualified bidders. But the single stage selective tender will not give a chance for a new competitors because there are selection criteria, there are selection already selected list, so that will not allow. So selective tender and open tender have only the one different is the one filter. That means the experience or list, uh, whichever consists, that people only can come for this particular tendering. Okay, when come to the two stage selective tender, you must remember the all the open tender, single stage selective tender, you can go to the bidding process mostly once the design is completed. But whereas in the two stage selective tender, highly it is starting the project in order to get the contractor know-how knowledge to develop the design. So therefore, first stage competition, the contractor will come and give his price and he will do the work. And the second stage is going to be a negotiation because once they finalize the design, then then only they can come to a final price. So that is going to be a negotiation. The nomination tender is the place where only one bidder called by the contractor. There's a question whether design is finished or not. It is subjective, but in this tendering methodology, the client will only going to invite one bidder to take over the project. Similar to that, in the serial tendering, the only one bidder, there are number of people will come for a bidding, but when come to the project, it will goes to the only one bidder. Sometime, let's say there are two, three projects, the client want to give to the project to the two different bidder, then first project will go to the first one, second project will go to the second one. What is the difference here? Under the open or single stage or two stage tender, there are one project, multiple bidders are competing. That is not happening under serial tender. One project only will give to the one. So there is a monopoly in the price. So this is what we have discussed so far, and hope you all can go through with the previous lecture and you can recall it. But that is just a refreshing information I am giving to you. Okay. So now what we are going to learn continuously, preparing what are the tender document, how to float the tender, how to take the decision to tender if you are a contractor. Then if you take the decision to tender, you have to call the subcontractor supplier inquiries to get their quotation. Then you have to have the supplier subcontract agreement. Then tender adjudication means you are going to decide the profit and overhead to the project. Then it will go for a tender submission. Once the tender submission done, then consultant QS will do the tender evaluation. So once the tender evaluation going on, there will be a tender negotiation during the process. Okay, so there is a long process happening once the tender is called. Finally, everything is goes well, then the contract will be awarded to the selected bidder. So let us understand how these process go in depth. Okay, so we'll start the lesson from here. So first preparing the tender document. Okay, so then the tender will be flowed. Then the contractor is collecting the tender document. Then tender received and tender evaluation by the consultant. Then tender negotiation by the consultant, and consultant prepare the contract document and award the contract. So these are the process we want to discuss now. Okay, so we will go one by one and learn in depth so you can get the more clarity. Okay, so now there must be a process, right? I was explaining about the order of the process. This is how we have to do. Why we must have these order or strategies? There are so many reasons. If you have a proper tendering methodologies, it could be whatever the methodology, right? What open tender, single stage selective, two stage selective, or nomination or serial, whatever it is, you must have the a sequence of the tendering. So what is the benefit of that? It's all the accountability. That means who's responsible for what? Auditability. Ensuring everything that you have consider into the project. Otherwise, if you are missing some information, that's going to be a problem and dispute. Parity and helping to reduce the claims. There are so many other reasons. And the client makes sure that he's paying the right price to the work. Okay. So now the methodology, what we are discussing, that is based on the RICS guidance note. Okay. So now the blue font I am putting here, this indicate the notes are coming from the RICS guidance note. Hope everybody got the material I have sent already. There you can find the RICS guidance note on this tendering. Okay. So anyway, that the one I sent to you is already highlighted those important points. So use that one. Now let us go and understand what RICS guiding us on this tendering. First, you do before tendering, there are a lot of activity. First, you have to produce a pre-tender estimate. Okay. Now, if you go and see the pre-tender estimate, okay, I will just go one by one. Now, what is a pre-tender estimate? Anyone know what is a pre-tender estimate? Anyone has any idea? What is pre-tender estimate? Can I explain someone? It's not a feasibility. Final estimate which is derived from final design. Okay, good. Price based
So
on,
before the tender floating period, call as a pre-tender estimate.
correct, yes, before tender floating. So what is the objective of doing the pre-tender estimate? Anyone knows? What is the purpose? Yeah,
To,
why we are
to
doing
calculate
PTE?
the funds required to execute a project. Kind of
Correct.
estimate your budgetary. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, he's right. Yes. The objective of the pre-tender estimate based on the final design, whatever the so far done, you are doing the estimation and calculating all the prices and make sure whether the client has the money or not. My voice is audible or low? Just confirm. Audible. Okay. So the client want to make sure he had enough money or not. So how he is make sure the client will rely on the pre-tender estimate. Let's say, okay, let's say it's a very important point. Okay, let's say you do the pre-tender estimate just before floating the tender. Okay, just before floating the tender. It's not beginning of the design. It is just before plotting the tender. So let's say the pre-tender estimate shows 110 million. Okay. The client budget, that means client budget including all risk allowance, everything, he says 100 million. Now, do you understand the client has enough money to do this project or not? What do you think? How much shortage? 10 million shortage. Okay. Look, the pre-tender estimate have included the risk allowance also. What do you think? Yes or no? Risk allowance. Yes, definitely you have to put the risk allowance. Now it shows 110 million. Can we float the tender? No, we cannot float the tender. So what we have to do? We have many options. Okay, we have many options if you encounter this problem. Number one, don't float the tender. Do the value engineering. Maybe we can reduce the quality of the material or ultimate supply. Something you have to do value engineer to meet the same functionality with the less cost. The objective of the value engineering to reduce the cost by 10 million. That we can do. Or you can redesign it. Again, redesign the project, right? You can redesign the project and you try to reduce the budget to 100 million. Let's say some client prefer, yes, phase wise or partial phase wise. Yeah, we can go phase one, two, three. If it is um, possible only. Or other option, so phase wise completion. Okay, phase wise completion. Other option you have, or if you can secure a loan from the bank, right? You can go for it. Or if the client can fund additional, he can put the additional fund. That's also fine. Okay, so he can go for 110 million without doing any changes. So there are multiple options depend on the situation. So now do you understand what is the objective of doing the PTE? Say yes or no? Correct. So once the pre-tender estimation is done, the notes available inside the RICS guidance notes. Okay, if you want to read, there's a RICS guidance note I have given to you. Inside the notes are there about the pre-tender estimate. So go and read it. Second, you are going to do a tendering, right? How many methodology we have for a tendering? 5 methodology. Okay, so you have to choose the right one. Okay, you have to choose the right one. And has a very favorite contractor. He want to award that project to him only. Which tendering method? Nomination tender. Yeah, not negotiated. Negotiated have two different varieties, right? Nomination tender. Client don't want to give to the inexperienced contractor. Which method? You will not choose. Which method you will not choose? Client don't want to give to the project to the inexperienced contractor. So which method you will not choose? Open tender. Yeah, except open tender, everything is okay, isn't it? Depend on the project scenario. Client want to take the kind of a design support and know-how knowledge from the contractor side. So which method you will go for it? Two stage. Very good. Not selective, two stage. You understand? Second, you are the one as a QS, you are the one going to choose the right tendering strategy. So once you selected the right tendering strategy, okay, there is a RIBA plan of work. What does RIBA mean? Like a
Royal
RICS,
Institute of British Architects.
like a RICS, we have the RIBA. So nothing to worry. This is the RIBA or APM. They have the stages how to do the project. They are the stages. So that stages you must aware. You must aware because why that is very important. Choosing the tendering strategy. Let's say you are in the concept design. Can you go for a lump sum contract where the scope of work is finalized when you are in a concept design? You cannot, isn't it? Because so the RIBA plan of work have the stages, conceptual stages, detailed design stages, likewise. Some tendering, yes, you can go for, let's say, nomination tender. Any stage RIBA plan of work, any stage you can go nomination tender. That's no barrier. But mostly, if you want to go for open tender, your design must be completed. The detailed design and the BOQ must be done. So you should understand where are you right now when you are doing the PT and when you are trying to select the most suitable tendering strategy. Okay. Then you have to set up the tender. What is the setting up the tender? That's the program, isn't it? Right. So you have to do the program. How much time will go? Let's say how much time you are going to take as a consultant side and the contractor side for taking the tender and preparing and submitting and also the evaluation. Then producing or compiling the tender document. Whose responsibility to produce the tender document or prepare the tender document mostly? A consultant. Yeah, consultant is the one preparing the tender document. But under consultant, which profession? Okay, definitely QS. Okay, you can call the QS as a contract manager or commercial manager or bidding manager or tender manager, whatever it is, QS. Okay, is that only one QS going to prepare the tender document? Or is there anyone else? Could be lawyer, yes. Anything else? Project management, yeah, team, yes, definitely. Accounts team will come. So let us understand what is a tender document. So tender document depend on the type of tender. It vary. Okay, don't fix your mind. These are the tender document will apply for all kind of tender. Is that correct? All the tender document will apply for all type of tendering. Is that correct statement? It is not. Okay. Open tender that have a different type of tender document. Slightly it vary. Two stage different types. Nomination different. Sometimes nomination no much tender document as well. They can immediately start the project. So it depend on the type of tender. The tender document will vary. But we will understand all the tender document whatever available. So that easy for you to determine which type of tender document needed for which type of tender. Okay. So the number and the nature of tender document will vary with the type of contract and the procurement route. So they will include some. What is a tender notice or invitation to tender? Now you should understand what is an in tender notice or invitation to tender, or what is the form of tender, or what is the condition of tender or instruction to tender. Okay, or form of agreement. Okay. So there are so many things are coming on. Okay, so let us understand one by one. First, you should know what is a tender notice or invitation to tender. Okay, so tender notice or invitation to tender. So if you think about the tender notice or invitation to tender, that document will include so many information. Initially, it will give the client name, who's the client, right, where he is located, his address or contact number. Then it will give you the project detail, where's the project, what is the project name, location of the project. Then every tender it has the contract and the tender number. There's a unique number they will give. Do you notice in your contract, whichever wherever you are working, there is a number in your project along with the name? Have you noticed that? So that number is very important because it is a unique number for each project. And they will mention also when the project detail mention, at the same time it will come with the small brief detail about the project. Is it a building project? If it is a building project, what kind of building? Is it residential apartment or townhouses or single villa? Right. So there's so many commercial building, so many types of building available. So they it mention the detail of the project. Or if it is a structure, right, infrastructure, what kind of structure it is. So that type of project is very important. Why? Do you think the building contractor can apply for a road project if the client asking for a prior experience? No, right? No, you cannot. So that is very important for the bidder to determine whether they have the capability to apply for this project or not. So the type of project is very important. In the pre-qualification in procurement, what client expected from the bidder? Let's say they will have the grading system or number of years experience in the particular area. Okay, so there are so many things will happen. So therefore, the pre-qualification information is needed if the client want a certain bidders or certain experience from the bidders. Okay, then normally there is a amount you have to pay to the employer whenever you are collecting the tender document. Do you know how much is it? Anyone had any idea? 2%, okay. Okay. Any other answer? Okay. Have you in your experience, have you collected any document and you paid by yourself at the same time? No. Who has the answer is? If you have answer is, tell me. Open your mic and tell me how you done that one. Okay. So the amount of tender fee, it is not connected with any percentage mostly or any figure. Okay, it is whatever the client setting the fees. Why they are setting the fees? There's a reason. What you are collecting from the client, they are drawing specification, some project document, right? There's a printing cost, there's an admin cost to prepare. So those costs they are trying to recover from the tender fee. So depend on the project. If it is a small project, the cost will be small. If it is a very big project, the cost will be high. But why it is very important to mention the amount of tender fee? Is there any reason? What do you think? Yeah, everyone will make sure there's a payment. So are they interested to take this project? They have to pay. Otherwise, they will be shocked when you asking the money when the time they are coming to collect the tender document. They will be shocked. So therefore you must inform them in advance. And also you have to mention where you are going to issue the tender document and what time and the date the bidder must collect. So now I have a question to all. There's a two word I am using here, bid and the tender. Is this the same word? Is it the same meaning? Yeah, it is same. Okay, no different. No, don't confuse. Tender document, bid document. Invitation to tender, invitation to bid. Okay, the both are
It
same. No?
is like British and American English slang, right? The two difference, bid and tender.
Yeah, it's same meaning, same purpose, same objective. So don't confuse. Okay. So many people thinking it is different. It's not different. Okay, same. Why I'm asking the question? I know how the people thinking. Okay, so you have to inform where you are going to issue the bidding document, and once you collect the tender document, definitely you are going to go through it. Once you go through it, you will have lots of questions. Yes or no? Once you start to read, you will have a lot of question, clarification. So that you have to mention when you are going to have that meeting to clear all the bidders clarification. So there's a date, time, place, and also there's a time for visiting the site, whoever taking the bidding document. So everything should be there. And also tender submission place and date and time. When you can submit the tender, what is the closing date and time? Can we agree the late submission? No. In general, no. Not ethical, isn't it? But sometime if the client, in exceptional cases, if the employer agrees so, then you can do. Otherwise, the answer is no. It is employer discretion. Okay, so can you calculate from here What is the tender submission timeline given to the bidder? How long it is? From where to where? It is from the document that is issued and document it is submitted. Okay, the different is the time that is given to the bidder to submit the tender. Okay. So there's a question. Please clarify. Tender is simply the invitation to supply goods or participate in a project, while bid is a response to the invitation. It is not. Both are same meaning. Okay. You don't get confused. The both intended purpose are same. Okay. Then bid opening place, date and time. So once you submit the bid, then the consultant need to open it and see it. In some bidding process, the client will invite all the bidder whoever submitted. In front of them, they will open the bid, and let's say contractor A 10 million, contractor B 11 million, contractor C 13 million. Like that, they will mark it. So every bidders know who is the highest and who is the lowest. This practice happening in some countries, like in sometimes in Sri Lanka it happening. But do you think the same practice happening in the Gulf? What do you think? No, not. It is subjective. So what we are learning now, RICS guided method. Okay. So it can be happen, it cannot be happen. It depends. So who's opening the bid? Consultant or client? Yeah, answer is approximately, say, no, not approximately, say subsequently, client employing the consultant. So client consultant is the employee representative. So consultant will not just open the bid. It is part of the employer representative work. So they will do it as a one team. So you don't need to separate it. Right? In other way around, the consultant will open the bid document in front of the client. That's all. Or other way around, consultant itself the client representative. So there's nothing to worry about that. Okay. So bid opening time and place would be mentioned. Method of tender submission. Sometime you have to mention if you want 3 copies or 6 copies, and how to mark the tender like original and copy like in the envelope. Okay, most of the tender there's a two different submission. What are them? One is the commercial submission. So commercial submission that is mostly prepared by the commercial team, which is QS, and the technical submission prepared by the project management team, or we can say technical team. Now, the common question for that, technical submission and the commercial submissions are there. Do you think which submission first the client will open? Technical or commercial?
Technical.
Yes, technical. Okay, the answer is simple. Why? If the contractor not capable to do this work technically, there's no point of opening his commercial. Okay, he's not going to do this project. And the contact detail, if any information they need before the meeting or submission on process, they have some clarification, so there will be contact detail. And the person who advertise this, they will give their detail. Then the project to project, they can give more or less information. Okay. Pre-qualification is a technical. Yes, it is technical. So once if you see tender invitation to tender or tender notice have all the information, less or more, but you understood, right? What is the tender notice or invitation to tender? It's giving adequate detail as much as possible that any bidder can understand about the project. Okay. So now let's go back. Form of tender. So you understood everybody, right? Tender notice or invitation to tender. Okay. Now let's talk about the form of tender. What is form of tender? Okay, let us understand. The form of tender is a document that include who's submitting the tender, right? So their name and the address. Then how much the amount they are quoting for. So tender sum in words and number. Okay, then it should be signed by the signature, authorized person. Should be authorized person should sign that one. Okay, now I have some question to you. First question: how do you know this is signed by the authorized signatory? How do you know? Which document you will refer to make sure this is a authorized signature? Mostly, any other document? Yeah, company rate license. Yeah, company should have the license, right? That license or the any legal document that proving this is authorized signature. Okay, otherwise you cannot verify. So do we need the legal document to verify this form of tender? Yes, definitely we need that. Now let's say there's another question I can ask you. Note down now whatever I'm talking, you will forget it. So you note down. If you are trying to do practically, you need the company registration or any valid document that proving this. Okay, now let's say tender sum in the word and the number should be same or different. Should be same. Now let's say the word say 10 million. Okay, 10 million. Whereas the number say 11 million. What you will do in this circumstance? Word or number, which is now high priority. If you are going to the RICS interview, okay, carefully listen. If you are going for a RICS interview, mostly the industry practice, they will say word is more powerful than the number. This is what they say. But make sure that is not coming from the industry practice. It is coming from the instruction to tender. In the instruction to tender, we will learn what is the instruction to tender. It should mention everything about the arithmetical correction or any deviation between the number and the figures or words. You should know. So maybe if your instruction to tender say take the priority the number, then you have to follow the number. Otherwise, mostly the instruction to tender say you take the words as a high priority. Okay. So therefore, you should always refer to the instruction to tender if you found any problem. Now let's say another case. Now let word and number in the form of tender, let's say 10 million, whereas your BOQ, okay, the value total sum up value coming 11 million. Now tell me which amount you are going to consider, 10 or 11. So how do you determine? Again, you should check your instruction to tender. Okay, so that's great.
So that priority of document, was it occur here?
Repeat again. What is that?
I mean, let's say in the form of price, but in the BOQ, certain price, different price. So as per the hierarchy, I mean, the Form of tender come first and the BOQ is another volume, right? So it comes second, let's say. So will the first one rule the number or the BOQ?
The form of tender in most of the document, okay, form of tender is the one will be in the high priority, but it should be mentioned in your instruction to tender. If
In the
instruction to
ITT it
tender,
should be.
yeah, if the instruction to tender is silent, let's say I was telling two scenario. One is in the form of tender, same document, word and number are not matching, but instruction tender nothing okay mention about it what to do, or you in a form of tender value and the BOQ value are not matching, but instruction tender is not telling what to do. What is your next action? What do you do? How do you manage the situation?
So I didn't get the question. Can you repeat again?
The both the cases I was explaining you, the solution is not mentioned in the instruction to tender. So in that case, what you will do? In if your instruction to tender silent about the issue.
If it doesn't like instructed, for sure I will be going with the form of tender. Yeah.
Okay. Any other different answer? This is a very important question. You will have it in the RICS interview. Okay. Surely you will get it. Any different answer? Okay. I will read your answer. Tender addendum, not a right answer. You don't. It is you. Tender addendum coming from the contractor to what you. You work for a client, right? So you are not going to make the tender addendum for your own query. That is no need. Then post tender clarification to bidder clarity in the amount. No. Price a query. No. Current industry practice. Okay. I will tell you. Say you are working for a consultant, right? And the main decision maker is a client. If come to the tender, there is a tender committee. Have you heard about that word before? Tender committee. Okay, tender committee will be there. These are decision makers. So you have to ask them how to handle this one. If the instruction to tender is silent, and you have to follow their instruction. Do you understand? You have to follow their instruction. So you have to follow the ITT. If the ITT is silent, you have to follow the tender committee instruction. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. But let's say if there is no any tender committee, they have been assigned for this in sort of way. So at that point, what decision should be taken?
Okay. We can ask that question another way also. But before I answer, mostly all the project must have the decision maker. So that decision maker is called tender committee. Assume that there's no tender committee as he asked, but assume that you are the person in the tender committee with the client side decision maker. What you will do? That's the question he is asking. Follow the industry practice. Okay, you follow the industry practice. But what I am trying to
Noted.
say, if you are not in the authorized position and don't take the decision without their consent, okay, later on they will come and say, who asked you to take the words? You supposed to take the number. Let's say the bidder, okay, let's say the bidder put the number 10 million, but in the word 11 million. The BOQ also he put the okay 11 million. Actually, what is the price? 11, right? He trying to quote
Yeah.
11, but mistakenly he put 10. But tender committee come and say, why you take the decision to follow the words? You supposed to take the 10 as a number, and we ask him to do the project for 10 million. Can happen, can go vice versa. So therefore, if you are not in the authorized position to take the decision, don't take decision. So follow their instruction. Okay, that's what I want to say.
Oh, okay, sir. Noted.
Okay.
And one more question I have, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Uh, as you said just now, I got it. The PTC and the addendum. Could you give me a like proper like differentiate between those two, PTC and the addendum?
We will
Post
come
and
to
the
that
clarify.
point.
Okay.
Yeah, we will
Okay, sir.
come to that. Now,
Okay,
time
sir.
being, all of you clear with the form of tender? Okay, so what is the objective of the form of tender? It shows who's the bidder submitting this and his proposed amount in the words and the number and the signature. Can we agree any form of tender not signed by the authorized signatory or there's a no sign, no signature? Can we agree that in tender? Not agree because there's no contract form. There's no offer given properly. Without giving the proper offer, we can't take the contract. Okay, as there's a question. If not stated in instruction to tender, the price difference between the figures and the words, we can refer to the country law or common law price in wording prevails. Now, country law particularly, okay, cannot be applied to a particular project. It depends on the parties what they are trying to agree. But however, the common practice is there. It's going to be taken into the consideration. But that common practice also become null and void depend on the scenario. Let me give you a small understanding. Let's say the contractor BOQ price, as I told you, okay, uh, 11 million. So what is the BOQ price? 11 million. And mistakenly he put the 10 million here. Now tell me what is the figure we are going to agree? 10 or 11. Instruction to tender is silent. Okay. Say ITT is silent. Now what you are going to agree? 10 or 11? 10. Why you are agreeing tender in a 10? Because you don't have ITT. Now the dispute come. Let's say it went to the litigation. Tell me what is the real figure of the contractor? 10 or 11? 11. Right? Because he drive. But mistakenly in a single page, he did the mistake. Big document BOQ, you had a okay correct amount, whereas in the single page. Now tell me, good faith and fair deal. What is right practice here to agree? 10 million or 11 million? 11, right? So therefore, be careful. It is case to case. But let's avoid that one. Proper tender evaluation should eliminate this kind of unnecessary issues, and you should have the clarity in the um, tender instruction to tender. Let's say the contractor not agree if you are awarding the things, then you are going to encase his tender bond. It happens sometime. Okay, I will reinstate. Okay, what I'm saying here. Time what they do, the bidder do the mistakes in the they do the error in the tendering. Okay, finally they got to know. Okay, either in the BOQ or form of tender, whatever the amount correct or wrong, that price whatever they offered, they cannot do it at all. If the project award, it is going to be a huge loss to the contractor. Do you think the contractor will take the project? No. So what they will do? They will wait until the tender bond release. If the contract is awarded to another one, or if he become lowest bidder and contract is awarded to him, he will reject it. So what is the loss for him now? As a bidder, he will lose one thing: tender bond. Yeah, he will lose the tender bond. Still, they are happy losing instead of losing the small amount. They don't want to be a bankrupt, so they do that practice as well. Okay. Now we will see what is the condition of tender or instruction to tender. Very important document. You must study this. So whenever you are going for a tender, you must read all of them. Okay, so what is condition of tender or instruction tender, and what is the content of that? So, okay, this is a very important document. Will give lots of clarity where you can collect the tender document from whom, the particularly which person or which department handling this. Same as in the instruction to tender, the date of the tender submission and the amount, how much you are going to pay for to collect the tender document, amount of the tender bond. The tender bond subjective, okay, it can be a percentage or fixed amount. So when come to a tender bond, there are so many things you have to understand. Can we agree any bidder submitting the tender document without tender bond? What do you think? It is not subjective. In principle, you must okay obtain the tender bond. If the why, what is the purpose of this tender bond? We will see. I think there's upcoming slide we will discuss about the tender bond. So very important tender bond. Okay, keep in mind. I will say why. Schedule of the meeting when you are going to have it. Okay, tender bond or bid security bond, whatever I say to you about, how they are calculating the tender bond. That is the answer will give you why it is very important. So how they are calculating the tender bond? Okay, to get the more clarity, now focus on carefully. Before that, I will answer Ahmed question. Why some content exists in the both invitation to tender or instruction to tender? Good question. It look like a repeating, isn't it? So do we need to keep both places all the information? No, no need. Okay. Either you keep one place. So what I am giving the complete comprehensive list. So what do you want to do? You keep one place, one information. That's fine. Let's say tendering started, all the people come and submit the tender. So they submit the amount. The lowest tenderer got the project award. So tender evaluation happen, then the project goes to the lowest bidder. And the lowest bidder say, I can't take the project, sorry. What you can do right now as a client side? What is the option you left for? Tell me. You award the contract to one selected bidder, but he's saying right now I cannot take this project. Forget about the bond. Okay, you don't have the tender bond. I'm trying to explain. You don't have the tender bond. Let's say. So what you can do? You can go for a second lowest. Okay, that is one option. Anything else? Second lowest also come and tell no. I will also not take it. He understood. No, he understood. The first lowest didn't take. So why should I take? I will also not take it. Then what do? You go for a third one, or you go for a retender. All of the people are messed up, so they are not going to take the project. Now you want to go the retender. Now let's say all the cases. Okay, going for a lowest tender or retender. Definitely, there is a price difference between the lowest tender, first and the second lowest tender. Yes or no? There's a price difference. And definitely, if you are going to do the re-tendering, you have to again put the advertisement for the bid, and there will be a tender, document collection, and evaluation, and submission, and awarding. The process will cost the client or not. So, is it reasonable and good practice to penalize the bidder if he not obey the amount he quoted for? or if he not obey his offer, which is going to make the employer suffer. Is it correct practice? Yes or no? Yes, right? It's a correct practice. Definitely, if the retender happening because of the bidder not taking the project, definitely it is going to waste the time of the client, not only with the time, also money. Or every bidder keep on rejecting their offer after submitting, then they are just entertaining. So the bid amount or tender, the tender security or bid security, in order to recover the cost of retendering or penalize the contractor or bidder, he is not offering, that means he is not respecting his offer. That is objective. So now my question, can we agree any tender without tender bond? No. Answer is no. Some projects, some cases, some people say maybe depend on why it's happening. Some client, okay, no problem, let him to come. We know him, he's good. That is client discretion. But if we do anything wrong, there's no way you can punish him. So therefore, as a consultant, don't advise. Okay, you must advise to have the tender bond. Okay. And the second, I want to ask you validity of the bid bond. Why it is very important? You want
Because
to
to show
answer?
the contractor is capable of that amount.
Yeah, if you want to answer that question, you should know when you will return the tender bond back to the bidder. When you are going to return the tender bond back to the bidder. After contract award, no. Generally 190 to 120 days, no. It's a key word I am expecting from you. Upon receipt of, complete the word. Upon receipt of what? Upon receipt of what? Complete the answer. Performance bond. Other than that, whatever you are telling, the answer is absolutely wrong. Okay, why I am telling like that? If you don't have the performance bond and you release the bid bond and the contractor sign the contract, you release the tender bond. Now he is saying, I will not do this project. Sorry. Can we do anything harm? Can we penalize him? No. So that is the reason. You should. What about the second lowest bidder? When will you release their bid bond? Once you consider, okay, I am going to give the bidder, lowest bidder, okay, the first lowest bidder. Can we release that time all the other bidder tender bond? What do you think? Once the selected bidder submit the performance bond only, you have to release all other bid bond. Why? Is there any reason? Is there any reason? Yes, there is a reason. In case the first lowest bidder or first selected bidder not ready to submit the performance bond or he's refusing to come and take the project, you will encase his tender bond. That's fine. But now that time you are going to go for a second lowest, right? That time if you don't have his tender bond, he will also do the same thing. So to avoid that, you must keep all the bidders tender bond until you receive the performance bond from the selected bidder. Okay, so don't forget that one. So most of the people going to the interview and they have the pre-contract experience in the CVs, but when the client asking this question, they do the mistakes and they are answering wrong. So now, do you have the high clarity how to answer this kind of question? And why? What is the intended purpose behind the sense? Do you understand? Okay. Okay. So delivery of the tender, how you are going to deliver? Correction of errors, like we discussed. How to correct the error? There's arithmetical error can happen. Oh, there's a number and word can be different. So how to do that? All should be mentioned. Location of the site, condition of contract. Okay, which kind of contract you are going to use? What are the insurance requirement? Okay, how tender will be awarded? The scoring metrics you have to mention. Some project they are exempted from the text. Okay, so if that the case, you have to mention that. So the instruction to tender ITT or instruction to bidder is a very important document that you have to keep in your tender document. Without that, you will be ending up so many a dispute during the tendering process. Now, form of agreement. Form of agreement is similar to the form of tender, but the difference is in the form of tender is offer. Form of agreement is acceptance. So, in the form of agreement, what are the key information you will find it? Anyone can say key information. No, form of agreement. Do you know what is a form of agreement? It's like a sample form. It just placed in the tender document how you are going to sign the agreement. So that form of agreement must have the both parties details and their name and both parties signature and both party agreed how much the price and the time for completion. So time and the time for completion and the contract sum. So that is form of agreement. It's a sample. When the tender document returned, do you think contractor will sign the form of agreement along with the tender document? Do you think he need to sign this document when he returned the tender? No, he don't need to sign. It's just for a formatting purpose. When the contract going to be awarded, this is the form they are going to use to sign. That's all. And the condition of contract. Okay. I, so condition of contract, we have two different condition of contract. Part one, general condition of contract, and part two, particular condition of contract. Which contract is more powerful, one or two? Which one will override the one? Part two is the overriding one. Why we are keeping the general condition contract? Let's say you are taking the FIDIC Red Book to this project. Okay, don't touch the FIDIC Red Book. Everybody know what is a FIDIC Red Book, right? Throughout the this program, we will learn that one, right? So you know what is a FIDIC Red Book. So you don't need to learn the FIDIC Red Book terms and conditions. You know by heart that one. But when you look at the part two, there you can understand what was the changes to the original uh, terms and conditions. So easy for you to understand and price your contractual risk. So part two is a very important. Okay. And also, when you're amending the contract, make sure you don't delete any general contract condition provisions. Maybe you can the part to mention null and void or not used. Okay. So this list of amendment, whatever you are doing in the contract document, it is very important to place within the contract or tender document. Otherwise, it is going to be hard for a bidder to go through with the contract document and understand all the rights and obligation and price them. because we are giving a very shorter time period to do the tender submission. Yes. So going through all these documents will be difficult for them. Okay. So that is condition of contract. Now, the part one, part two case may be not applicable for kind of some project where they have the bespoke contract, where they don't have any standard provision. Like if you are in Qatar, they have the Asgar, right? If you are in Saudi, there's a big organization. In Dubai, we have the biggest organization. They are having their own standard form. So they don't put any particular condition of contract if they are using their bespoke. Okay, mostly. But let's say in their bespoke contract, still they want to do some adjustment to the new project, then there will be part two. Since the contractor working with the particular client for a longer period, they become familiar with their own terminology. Therefore, that's fine. They can price the risk easily. But mostly, if you are using the standard form of contract, then you will have a general condition of contract and the particular condition of contract. Okay, appendix to tender. There are so many appendices there. It's like a format. Okay, so there are so many project to project vary. They can keep the health and safety document like a format. They will keep the format, and they can give the some details of the project layout, like how the live electrical or water supply or drainage going on, or any existing structure. Okay. If they are if you are a new company, then they will request a parent company guarantee and that format, and performance bond format. And if there's a responsibility, like there's a responsibility matrix. So what kind of design, if it's a design, okay, which design, who's responsible? They might have the risk register format. Okay. And performance bond, if you want to submit that amount, they will mention, and how, which bank, how much, every information will be there. Insurance, what type of insurance they need, from where you want to get it. Okay, all the detail will be given, and deductible limits in the insurance, right? So how much the time they will give to commence the work after issuing the letter of acceptance, because the contractor must prepare. Likewise, there will be a lot of information will be there in the appendix to tender. Okay. So project to project, this appendix to tender will be vary, and it is subjective. Don't expect everything will be there in the one project. It depends. Okay, so specimen form, as we say, uh, like a bid bond, they will give the form. Performance bond, advance payment bond, right? If you are going to use the retention bond, there will be a form. So like there are all specimen form. In the industry, it is not RICS practice. In the industry, all these document 1 to 7 we call as a volume 1. Don't remember, okay, for RICS purpose, no need, but for a easiness to study and keep remember, volume 1 consists 7 document. Okay, so easy if you remember the same order. And the volume 2 stand for a specification. There's a general specification and the particular specification. And the volume 3 is a pricing document. Okay, so measure and value contract, we are using the schedule of rate, and the lump sum contract, we are using the BOQ. And the drawings will be volume 4. And whatever the other document you want to put, it, it can be accommodated within the volume 5. So this is volume 2, 3, 4, 5. This is in order to memorize or to understand whether is there any other document missing when come to the industry practice. It is easy to remember them. So now so far what we done, we have understood what are the content of the tender document. Is that clear? Okay. Okay. Next, considering how the project specific factor or abnormal influence a tender. RICS guidance notes, as I told you, the blue color font standing. You can go to the RICS guidance notes and learn. So this one, considering how project specific factors or abnormal influence a tender. Say if the tenders are very risky, let's say nowadays so many countries are fighting with each other. There's a war. Do you think the contractor happy to go and do the project in a war zone? Going to be a problem, right? It's a problem. So they will not go. So the risk factor is high. If any contractor comes, they will put a bigger, high, a very higher risk margin because life is the matter. Or let's say the project is a very isolated place, very difficult to access. There's a very middle of the desert. Do you think the same profit margin they will put, which is the project in the middle of the city, or very higher one? They are going to go very high one. Okay, so some abnormal factors or some projects factors will determine the tender value. Okay. Now, when come to the tender floating, right, you have to issue the tender. So already you have mentioned under the instruction to tender, invitation to tender, where the tender, you have to issue it. So once you issue the tender document, the tender process start from the contractor side. So who's doing the tender queries, tender addenda, or mid-tender interview, or tender withdrawal, all happening from the contractor. Okay. So let us understand what is happening with the contractor organization. Okay. And this is a point, the contractor deciding whether are we going to go to this tender or not. Okay. So let us understand what are the factors the contractor first deciding to go for a tender or not. He can decide in a two stage. One is when he see the invitation to tender itself, he can reject. I will not take this project. Or second thing, he collected the tender document and he went through with the tender document and he had a lot of queries. Once answered, he decided, no, I will not take this project. So what are the factors influencing? So decision to tender. Who's going to decide the tender? Consultant or contractor? Which party we are going to talk about here? Contractor. Very good. So during this decision to tender stage, the contractor see the nature. That means what kind of project this is. Whether let's say a building project, but there's a small building, medium-sized building, high-rise building. Depend on the contractor size, they will think about whether they can do or not, and complexity of the project. Who are the parties involved? Let's say before come to the parties, let's say contractor is a very small contractor. Project is a high-rise building. Do you think he can take this project? Probably no, because of he don't have the resources to do. Okay, so that is a decent factor for him. Oh, principle of parties involved. What is the matter now? Some consultant, okay, involved with the project. Some contractor will not even go and quote the bit. They don't like them. Is that true? Or some client, okay, they are not paying timely to the contractor. They had a lots of dispute in the industry. Do you think the contractor will go and involve with them? They know it's problem. So some scenarios, by seeing the people involved, okay, or parties involved in the project, the contractor will not give any offer. They will not come for a tender. Sometime the contractor thing, some contract have the more portion to the nominated subcontractor works. Or if the nominated subcontractor works amounting more than the contractor work, sometimes the contractor will not take interested to take this project. So how much they are going to have the work value wise, also another factor, because if the client say 100 million project, 10 million by the main contractor, 90 million by the nominated contractor subcontractor, let's say, just I'm telling for example, they will see the uh, project value, how much they are going to do by using their own resources. If they are not happy, they will not come for this tender. And also time allowed for tendering. So from the tender document collection to until the tender return or submission, there's a time given. If the time is too short and pricing a project is too risky within the shortest time without understanding the all the requirement of the project, do you think the contractor will come and take the project? Is already there about the timing in the invitation to tender, so they will not. And firm or fluctuating price. Let's say some contractor will fear if the contract is called for a fixed price contract. It's a fixed price contract or fixed rate contract where you can't change the rate based on the fluctuation. It's very risky. So sometimes some people, some contractor prefer to keep the price fluctuation within the contract because he cannot predict the market price. It's keep on now fluctuating. Are we entertaining the price fluctuation during the last few years in the construction industry? A huge changes. Yeah, we are having so many problems. So therefore, the price fluctuation, some contractor will be in risk. So he will not happy to take this project. Sometimes the contract starting date or time for completion or the way the contract need to deliver. Some contractor, okay, not ready to take. Let's say the contractor is a big project, okay, high rise building. It's a high rise building. At least you need 1,000 manpower, okay, to deploy in order to start the work. Now contractor had resources. He had 1,000 manpower, but this project supposed to be start by January, but his resources will be available by from the June only. Okay, but you need to start from the January. Do you think he can hire the 1,000 resources within the shortest period? It's hard for them, no? It's hard. So risky because there will be starting date mentioned and his resources available from the June, whereas this demanding January. So looking at the timeline, maybe he will not go for this project. Okay, so because of the resource availability, sometimes the working condition or site access or so many things. Once they do the site visit, they will be seeing a lot of information. Okay, so once they got so risky, then they will think, okay, not better not to do. As I told you, like a manpower supply shortage, current workload. If they have too much workload, will they submit the tender for the new project? They are not able to manage the current workload. Will they submit the tender? Answer me. No, you will not. Okay, you can't manage it. Unless otherwise you can bring the resources. Competitive, they will see who is going to compete. Okay, some competitors come, the other contractor will not come because they know they are not going to win this project. So some strong contractor, okay, if they come, then the normal contractor will not take the project. Now let's say decision to tender. Anyway, there are so many points we have discussed. All the matter, okay, contractor come to a conclusion, I am not going to quote for this project. Can he say the bidder? Can he go and say to the client, sorry, I am not taking this project. I will not quote. Is that right practice? Okay, what you will do now? You can't say no to the client, and also you don't want to take the project also. Then what is the strategy they are using nowadays? Higher prices, very good. Make the very huge prices. This is what they do. So they are being polite to say no. So simply what will happen? Your tender return will be not considered, but client also not going to be harsh on you because you have respect their request to submit the your bid, but they are not happy with your price, so they are not going. Otherwise, say if you not sometimes the contractor fear, if they don't return the tender to them, do you think they will call for upcoming project? That time you need the project in the future. Is that my voice low? Just confirm, am I audible? Okay, good. So do you understand my question? If you say no to this project, maybe there's a possibility that the contractor will not get any invitation for a future project. So that's why he is trying to be polite by giving the higher price, right? So that is a strategy happening. So just note this important point because it is all practice. What is happening? Okay. So before you are coming to the decision to tender, you are going to see the contract document. You see all the contractual risk. Okay. Or you are going to see the payment terms or returns and how much the percentage the money going to be returns and okay, and the LD amount, okay, is very important. If you have the high LD, then high risky, okay. Performance bond amount, you have to obtain it. Any insurance requirement that is something extraordinary, or any ambiguities between them, so many ambiguities or different interpretation between the many tender documents, or there's a problem between the BOQ, same as above point, but there's a not clarity between the BOQ or scope of work or specification, or there are so many information missing. Okay, so you are going to decide whether to do or not. So it's a mind mapping for you. You receive the tender document as a contractor. You study the workload, all the project requirement, and including the condition of contract, and you found it is risk, so you decide not to tender. Or second thing, you decided to do a tender because you found everything is fine, let it go, let's start, then decide, okay, you are going to do a tendering. So that is the point. You are going to start with the collection of information. So collection of information, once you decided to do a tender, you want to start, that is the next process. So we will learn what is the collection of information you are going to do and how you are going to do. Thereafter, what is the process you are going to continue from here. Okay. So we will continue from the next session. Is there any question before winding up today lecture? Okay. If not, see you all with the next lecture. Good night to everyone.